YouTube, what's good everybody? Welcome to the channel, welcome back to the channel. How y'all doing, man? So it's been a crazy week. We're wrapping up this week. It is Friday, a few days before Easter. And I meant to do this video early in the week, but again, it's just been so busy. So this week I had 3 lacrosse games to shoot. All of them were back to back. So it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I also had to be at a senior signing day on Tuesday. So just a lot to catch up, a lot of editing. But I finally got everything done. Clips are out, posts are up, everybody has what they need. So now I can make content for myself. But as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, today we're gonna be talking about this beast of a camera right here. It is the Sony FX3, and I'm pretty much gonna explain why this is the best video camera that you can buy. All right, so to start the video off, this is honestly my favorite camera to use and probably my favorite camera that I've ever had. And just for backstory, I've had the Sony A7 IV, which is what I'm shooting this video on right now. I had the Sony A7 III, and I had a few crop sensors, Sony cameras like the A6000, the A6200, and the A6400. And here are a few reasons why I love this camera. So to start off, the first thing I love about this camera is all the frame rates that I get and the fact that I can shoot all of them in 4K with pretty much no crop. The only crop that comes into play is when I shoot in 4K 120, and it's a very subtle crop. So yeah, all the frame rates that I get on here is 120, 60 frames per second, 30 frames, and 24 frames per second. And again, I shoot everything in 4K. Being that I shoot sports, I mainly shoot a lot of my stuff in 4K 120, and that's pretty much all my game action, just because a lot happens in the sport of lacrosse and every sport, honestly. So to be able to shoot in 120 in 4K and still be able to slow it down and make sure I capture some important moments in the game is definitely something that is almost a must, especially for me whenever I shoot, knowing that I have the flexibility to go back and slow everything down to 25% or 20% if I'm in a 23 or 24 frames per second timeline. Just makes me feel more comfortable knowing that I pretty much always have the shot. But there is times where 4K 120 can be overkill. One of the downsides to using 4K 120 is that the file sizes are massive. So I've gone through probably 3 hard drives in the last couple of years of just capturing everything of sports and putting all my footage on those hard drives, which brings me to my next point in shooting in 4K 60 and 4K 24 frames per second. And recently I've had to shoot in 60 frames per second and 24 frames per second just because silly me forgot to offload all my footage from previous days. So I'll go out to the game and still have that footage on my SD cards, and I start the game off with low memory. So to counter that, I just shoot in lower frames. And I recently just shot in 4K 20 frames per second, again, just from that issue I was telling you about. And it was at night. And to be fair, the 4K 24 frames per second looked amazing. And I really need to shoot in 4K 20 frames per second more often, just because everything does not need to be slowed down. Now I'm still learning this and trying to pick and choose when I shoot in 24 frames per second. I can shoot in 30 frames per second, but for some reason, I just prefer 24. There's no real rhyme or reason. It's just, I don't know, maybe because I like the number 24 better. So yeah, you're never short on the options of frames that you can shoot. The next thing I love about this camera, and it's pretty well known, is how great it is in shooting in low light. So not to get too technical, because I'm sure you can watch somebody else's video that breaks down everything about this camera. But again, you have dual base ISOs in this camera. So I'll first back up. The dual base ISOs in this camera is 800 and 12,800, meaning if I shoot at ISO 800 or shoot at ISO 12,800, those are gonna be the cleanest and clearest images that I can get out of camera. So there won't be any noise or any grains in my footage as long as I expose properly. And that moves me into my next talking point in shooting in S-Log3. So I shoot everything in S-Log3 for the most part. And this camera has a 10-bit sensor, 10-bit, sorry, I have my retainers in. A 10-bit sensor, meaning that I can get the most dynamic range out of this camera. And it's pretty much standard in most Sony cameras now. So my A7 IV that I'm shooting on now, I can shoot in 10-bit in 4K. So it's nothing special just to this camera, but the fact that it has it, obviously, is always a plus. So you know you're gonna get all the frame rates, you know you're gonna get the best quality shooting in low light. You know that you'll be able to stretch the image and really manipulate the colors in the image in post based on the quality out of this camera, and just shooting in 10-bit as well. I think the one thing that's very underrated about this camera is the internal fan that it has. And again, that's one of the things that separate this camera from the Sony A7S III, which are pretty much identical cameras. The Sony A7S3 has a viewfinder and doesn't have the internal fan that this camera has. But the fact that this one has a internal fan definitely saves me, especially in these hot elements that we're about to approach in the next few weeks. So just for a backstory, using this camera last summer, of course filming a lot of lacrosse in the summer, being outside, it gets very hot in Maryland, it gets very hot in Delaware, heck, it gets very hot in North Carolina. It's hot everywhere, and I've never had an overheating issue once with this camera. I can't say the same thing about my Sony A7 IV that I used to use outside, but that camera used to shut off on me all the time in the heat. I always had the fear of missing shots, which I have missed shots before because I was shooting on that camera. But with this camera, I know that heating is never gonna be an issue. So yeah, a lot I can say about this camera. One of the cool things about this camera is that it really looks professional. I mean, it is professional. It is a cinema line Sony camera, but just having a top handle and adding a few accessories to the top handle and the cage definitely gives you a much more professional appearance. And I believe that says something about you as a videographer. Now again, do you need all of this to be a videographer? No. But once you kind of establish yourself, you definitely want to enhance your appearance at some of these events or whatever it may be. And the amount of times that I'm at high school games and parents see this camera, see this in my hand walking around, they think I'm just this top of the line movie style videographer, cinematographer, just because they see the rig. And if I have like my 70 to 200 on here, they just think I just have the most crazy setup. So there is something to be said about having a professional looking camera. But again, it's not anything that you need when you're first starting. Your professional appearance does not matter when you first start. So if you're just getting started, do not worry about trying to rig out your entire setup. Definitely focus on these small things like learning how to use your camera, exposure, and all those things that us beginner videographers struggled with, and honestly still struggle with to this day. So yeah, and yeah, honestly, I think those are all the things I want to highlight about this camera. Again, I can rant about this camera, but it's meant to be a short video. If you're interested in knowing about my camera setups and some of the lenses that I have, what monitor I'm using and all that stuff, definitely let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I'm just excited to make videos like this. I look forward to pushing out at least one video a week, whether it be a vlog, whether it be me talking about my cameras. So yeah, if there's anything specific you want to see, definitely let me know in the comments below. And shout out to all the new subscribers that we gained from our last video. I think we gained about 20, almost 30 subscribers. That my last video is sitting at 1,000 views, which is nuts because, I don't know, quick rant, it just feels like 100 views on YouTube is far more fulfilling than 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 views on Instagram, just because the attention span is so lower on social media. So anybody can really watch your videos and add a view to your video. But for YouTube, for somebody to actually sit down, click on your video, like it and subscribe it, I definitely enjoy that type of connection. It lets me know that my last video that I did something right to gain some new supporters. So shout out to everybody that liked the video, that's on this journey with us. But yeah, I'm done ranting. It is almost 11:30 at night. I need to edit this video because I have a busy day tomorrow. So yeah, I'm ranting, and once I rant, that means the video's over. Now that the video's over, I'm about to get off. So I appreciate everybody. Peace.